Audio was off.
We good?
Audio was off about 5 or 10
Most of the
seconds
questions
ago.
that have arisen fall under four main categories. Number one, process. Two, lack of transparency. Three, shared governance. And four, policy. As many who are here today took the time to attend during the busiest time of the semester, we want to thank you. And this goes out to everyone here in person as well as the 226 online. We want to make sure we listen and hear from everyone. We will start with questions from each of these four areas and then turn it over to the audience. Please note that these questions were submitted to us prior to the forum, and these are not directly from either Matt or myself. However, they are representative of the views from the faculty and the staff.
Unfortunately, we don't have time here to discuss all the questions that have been sent in, but thank you to everyone that did send in your questions and comments. We also have a post-forum survey that will be available after this, asking people what additional thoughts and feedback.
Yeah, sorry, we kind of got mixed up in our terms because we have to turn the page. Okay, so we are going to have a post-forum survey with just a general question in there, but we would like folks to feel that as though they can submit additional questions after the forum. And these include questions that people might not feel comfortable asking in person. Feel free to include your concerns and comments that you may still have. We will collect these and we'll send them to you. And Todd, how would you like to respond to the prior inquiries and concerns and to the post-forum survey? What's the best way for you to respond back?
Why don't you coordinate that with Leonard and we'll figure out how to go. So is that with you?
Yes, with me and Matt.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Todd. Thanks, Leonard. We appreciate it. We're going to begin with a few of the overarching pre-submitted questions that relate to each of the areas.
So each of the areas that we mentioned are process, transparency, shared governance, and policy. And then once we go through these pre-submitted questions, we just have a few, and then we'll turn it over to the audience for questions. And so we'll be going back and forth between in-person as well as taking questions from the chat for all of those attending online. So with that, we're going to invite President Saliman to come, and you can sit here. We'll pass to you, and I suppose I'll use this microphone over here to ask the questions, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, and so the video's right here.
Zoom microphone, or how are the people on Zoom hearing?
There's a microphone on the podium, but it's pretty sensitive.
And
So
is
that's
this for Zoom? So if I don't use this, can people from Zoom
Oh,
hear?
I got this. This is the capacity. You're the only one.
Okay. So is this for the room? Or you all want me to use this? Is this helping? Okay, great.
All right, so
Great. And this is the camera.
there's the
And
camera.
it's okay, yeah, and we'll talk a little bit. Can we tell it up? I will need you to sit down. Yeah.
I think the other question is, who has the mic for the audience? I have a mic ready.
So the mic that was up there, we don't want to carry around and pass.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry, we just needed a little 45-second timeout. For logistics.
Okay. Okay, can people on Zoom see me? Is that good? And can you, people see my face on?
You're perfect. I can see you on
Okay. Is that, and I'll move these chairs, so. All right, great.
Okay. So thank you so much, Todd and or President Saliman. And apologies for the logistics here.
No? Okay.
So the opening question is around process. So in an email dated November 15th, you said that Jennifer Sobanet was not a finalist for the position of chancellor. As a result, Dr. Sobanet did not get vetted by our campus through the open forum with faculty, staff, and students, and meetings with other constituents that the other candidates went through. We were not asked for input on her performance at any point. So the question is, why did you not send Dr. Sobanet forward as the next candidate to interview on campus when you found the previous candidates unacceptable? And what feedback and from who influenced your choice?
Okay, great. So thank you for that. And I'm going to answer that by talking about the process in general a little bit. And if I don't answer all those things, just ask me again. So thank you all very much for being here. And as Monica noted, I know it's a very, very busy time on the campus, and so so I really appreciate you being here to ask me what I'm sure will be some challenging questions, and so I'm happy to get those, and I definitely want to have the conversation. So I know there's frustration in terms of how the process works. So I wanted to start by just talking a little bit about that process and how we moved through the process, which I followed to the letter, and I'm happy to have more conversation about that. So obviously, to begin with, I was disappointed, I think, like a lot of people, when at the beginning when the process didn't actually produce a finalist that was the right choice for UCCS. And I'll talk a little bit about how we got there. But honestly, I do think that the fact that after we went through the process and I listened to everybody's feedback about the two finalists, and that helped inform my thought process, and that helped inform my decision making when it became clear to me that neither of those two candidates, while they're outstanding people, very accomplished individuals, were the right choice for UCCS at this point in time. And to me, that's the process working. It didn't have the outcome that I think I was anticipating or that people were hoping for, but that's the process at work, and it helped inform that decision. I feel like the search firm did a really good job of putting together a diverse pool of highly qualified candidates. I feel like the search committee did a good job of meeting with candidates and making recommendations to me.
Just
So
not
I'm
the
going to do a few things today that I haven't shared along the way, but just to help try to inform you, to give you some more insight into how the process worked. So the search committee forwarded me 5 names, and I met with the search committee, and they gave me feedback on each of those candidates. After meeting with, and I was very surprised at that point when Jennifer wasn't on the list. And in fact, when I called her, and it was a tough call, when I called her, talked to her about the fact that he wasn't being forwarded, that was hard. That was hard for her. That was hard for me. But I was confident that the list of candidates that I had been forwarded was that our next chancellor of UCCS was on that list. There were outstanding candidates on that list. So the search committee forwarded me 5 names, and then I heard from the search committee about each of the candidates, and I decided to move forward with 4. And so I set up interviews with 4 of those individuals, and unfortunately, an incredibly outstanding candidate got another job along the way.
Online.
That's a lot of real cameras. So anyway, so one candidate dropped out because they took another job, and that is what happens along the way. They were outstanding and they got another job, and that's how that works. So I ended up interviewing 3 candidates, and of those 3 candidates, I felt like it was appropriate to forward 2 of them to the campus. The regents interviewed those 3 candidates as well. And I should acknowledge that Regent Kim Montero is here, so thank you for being here today. So that's how we kind of got to the point where I sent 2 candidates to the campus for your consideration. And let me just make sure I'm going in order here. So of course, I interviewed those candidates. I had opinions about them, but I was, and I said this all along, I really wanted to know what people thought. I wanted people to attend the meetings on the campus, and I wanted them to fill out the surveys. And that's exactly what you all did, what people in the community did. And I considered that feedback seriously. And because of that feedback, and because of my perception of the candidates overlaid on top of that, I made that determination that it wasn't, that neither, while they're excellent people, and I don't want to say anything negative about either of the candidates, they're awesome people, very accomplished individuals, but they just weren't the right choice for UCCS at this point in time. So then then there was a bit of a conundrum there, because obviously the process had produced a result, but the result was no finalist becoming our chancellor. And so I paused, of course, and I considered, what do I do next? And so I talked to the folks in my office, I talked to our legal office, and I asked them, what are my options at this point? And my options were pretty broad. And because regent policy, which I followed to the letter, is broad when it comes to the authority of the president in this area. And I know that, and different processes have been followed over the years in this regard, but you know, I considered my options. So one option, of course, was to just continue the search, start again, start looking for additional candidates again. That was a risky proposition, and the reason for that was because, well, we just had a finalist that didn't get selected. And so I was really concerned that if we started the search up again, that we would end up with a pool that wasn't of the same quality of the pool that we had just gotten. The other thing that's challenging, of course, is the budget situation at UCCS. That came to light after kind of the search started, and our search firm actually talked to each of the candidates about that. They were aware of it, and to make sure that they still wanted to stick with the process. But the search firm did share with me that not only was it going to be challenging to develop an excellent pool, because we just had a process go through without selecting either of the finalists, but that it was also going to be difficult because of the budget situation at UCCS. And it's just that combined with, and any legislators watching, very grateful for the funding that we get from the state of Colorado, but the reality is that the state of Colorado doesn't fund higher education very well. And so that combined with this talent here, they thought would make it difficult to recruit another pool of excellent candidates. So I chose not to go down that path. And now I could have asked Jennifer to just stay on and wait until the next cycle, wait a year essentially. But I was concerned that Jennifer was
about the reason that the search firm had said that they wouldn't.
Hello.
If you're online, please mute.
Just mute yourself.
Mute your audio. You could, yeah, you can turn down the audio. Yeah, they can still hear us if your audio's down.
Okay.
We need a button.
Yes, you're right. Thank
Like,
you.
it used to be really big.
Anyway, that'll be an upgrade. So I decided, okay, where was I?
You said she was looking for a job.
Yeah, so she was looking for a job. So I thought that the idea of asking her to stick around, so I'd already told Jennifer that I was hoping that she would stay through the end of the fiscal year until the end of June. And but she was looking for a job. And I thought the idea of asking her to stay for another year on top of that just was not realistic. And so I didn't think that was a viable option. And honestly, the idea of appointing another interim was really unattractive to me, because I feel that the campus is facing some significant challenges, and we need stability, we need continuity, we need a stable leadership that is committed to working with the campus community to address some of these challenging issues that are ahead of us. So then where do I go from there? So as I was thinking this through, and I said it in the paper, it became more and more apparent to me that our best option was actually our best option was standing right in front of all of us, standing right in front of me. And that's Jennifer. And I know that we're not here today to talk about her, but I feel like she has been doing an excellent job addressing the issues that I asked her to work on with the campus. You know, enrollment, budget, morale, these are things that are, and I'm going to talk about that. You know, so I get that, and I get the irony here. I get it. And I knew this, I'm not stupid. I understood what the consequence of my decision was gonna be. But the things that we're talking about her, and she's working on those things, and she's doing a good job and truly engaging with the campus in a transparent way on those issues. And I'm very grateful for the work. And to me, the proof is in the pudding. The concrete things that have been happening here under her leadership. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. And so to me, it was clear that she was actually exactly what I was looking for. And so then the question, was, well, how do I move forward with that? Do I re-engage the search committee? Do I have her go through the process, part of your question, and an interview with the campus community, and all of that? So obviously I didn't choose that option. So why didn't I choose that option? For a few reasons. One is I was worried about timing. I was worried that would take a while. That would, of course, have to happen after the holiday. And I was also pretty clear that I thought that she was the right choice. And I honestly, I just wanted to get on with providing that stability for the campus. So when I called Jennifer and I offered her the job, she was super surprised. So for folks who think the fix was in, I'm not sure what I can say except that it wasn't. She was looking for a job. I had told her that she wasn't a finalist, and that's just not true. The fix wasn't in. I was certain that one of those 5 people that the search committee forwarded to me was going to be our next chancellor. And that was hard, and that was a hard conversation. So when I called her and told her, she was stunned because she thought she was completely out of the running and she was looking for a job. What I learned a couple days later, or a few days later, or just like a couple days ago, is not only was Jennifer looking for a job, but 4 hours before I called her and offered her this job, she'd actually been offered another job that she had accepted and that she was going to be leaving UCCS in March. I didn't know that at the time, of course, but it just put a little exclamation point on it for me. And I was incredibly grateful that I called her when I did, because we could have been in a situation where we didn't have her, we didn't have an interim, and I would have had to appoint a new interim, and we would have been stuck waiting a year to do another search again. And so is that an ideal way to come about this? Of course not. Of course not. When I say that I want to hear from people, which I say all the time, not just during this, but I've been to the campus and I talk about that. And I believe in that. And it's really important to me that we work collaboratively together. But I thought that I needed to act quickly in order to provide that kind of stability and continuity on the campus, and to make sure that we got an excellent leader in place who could lead the campus forward. Now, obviously, I know, because you all laughed, right, when I talked about morale, and obviously I knew that that people, you all, and the folks on Zoom were and people beyond were going to have questions about the process, might be frustrated that you didn't get a chance to interview her. Of course, she's been interacting with the campus for 6 months. That's not the same, right? It's not the same because you don't get to ask her questions about doing this job. And I completely get that. And I knew folks were going to be mad at me. Like, I don't enjoy the fact that all of you are angry about me for the process. So I knew this was going to happen, but I also knew that if I didn't act quickly, I didn't know then, and it was actually confirmed, but I thought that if I didn't act quickly, we would be in a terrible situation where we would have another interim coming in and a difficult search ahead of us. And so I made the decision I made. And I'm just grateful that we have an excellent chancellor now who's going to work with all of you to move the campus forward. Now, I know that you're frustrated that I didn't ask you for your opinions, that you didn't weigh in, and I completely get that. And maybe somebody in this room, some people have suggested that I reopen the survey so people can provide response after the fact, even though obviously it's not the same. She's hired, I'm sticking with her. And she is going to do a good job. But I do want people to be heard, even though I completely get that it's not the same thing, right? And so I am going to reopen that survey, and I will give everybody a chance on the campus community and in the broader community to provide feedback. It'll be anonymous, it'll be confidential. I'm not going to release the results. But I will provide a summary of what people say. And that is a way for, well, you know, this is a personnel matter, and I'm not going to release information that is confidential, that people want to share with me confidentially. I'm just not going to do that. And I'm not going to do that relative to the other candidates either. The information is provided anonymously with an expectation of confidentiality, and I'm not going to share it. That being said, I want to know what you think, and I can use that to create expectations for Jennifer and her performance, and honestly, she and I can use that together to focus her work with you over the next year and years to come to make sure that she's engaging with the campus effectively. So a couple other things. One is that I know so for faculty in here, maybe for people who aren't faculty members, I know that there was some concern about Jennifer not having a strong academic record, and that she isn't a tenured faculty member. She doesn't have years of experience doing research, and so that's true. I do feel that she absolutely has the skills that are needed to get us where we need to go, given the challenges we have today. But that's just true, right? She doesn't have that depth of experience, and she and I have talked about that. And so a couple things that she is doing quickly to compensate for that lack of experience in that area. One is that she has invited the deans to be part of the cabinet, and they will join cabinet meetings, I think every other cabinet meeting, to provide feedback to her from the faculty's perspective. She's also working with Nancy and with Kathy to create a new position, an AVC for faculty affairs, to make sure that she and the provost are more effectively connected to faculty and serving faculty better or effectively. And so those are some concrete things that she's put in place to try to compensate for that area. I know that's not really, it's on people's minds, so I just wanted to mention it. I know that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about the process and all of that. But I just wanted to put that out there too, to offer you that.
President Saliman, can you maybe this part wrap up? Just because we have additional areas, if you don't mind, or maybe
Did I answer all of your questions?
I think so. So if you don't mind, let's go. I hate to cut you off like this. I apologize, but I'd like to go ahead and go on to the next area, which is transparency. And again, I would like to remind. Maybe I'll take the mic. Okay. So again, I'd like to remind everyone that the questions came from members of the campus at large. So this was one of the questions. I've been particularly impressed by at least one of the search candidates and was surprised to hear rumors that the search might be failed. I asked, why would that be the case? Why were we told nothing about this? Many of us took time at the end of the semester when we have finals, papers, projects, student accommodations, etc., in addition to our other work deadlines, and went to see these candidates. So the main question again is, why would that be the case, not being told about what was going on with the search itself, and then why were we told nothing about this?
Thank you. So the feedback so I met with the candidates and I had my perceptions of the candidates. Regents met with the candidates, gave me their perceptions, and then many people from the campus community and the broader community met with candidates. Some of you provided feedback from those meetings. It was super mixed for both candidates. And once again, I just want to reiterate, this is not a reflection on them. They are excellent individuals, but it was super mixed relative to how people who responded to those surveys felt that they would do here at UCCS. It was very clear to me that there just wasn't broad support that we would need for the candidates to be successful. Not a reflection on them, a reflection on how they would be able to work with the campus at this point in time. And so I didn't select them.
So for everyone else here, we do have 2 more pre-submitted questions that we're going to be asking, and then it's going to open up to the audience. So there's only 2 more. There's only 2 more remaining.
No.
Take this one.
Thank you.
So this next question is related about transparency and shared governance. You profess values of shared governance and transparency. How does the hiring of a person who was not interviewed on campus, presumably was not part of the search committee choice, and for whom campus has not given feedback, show these 2 values? So values of shared governance and transparency.
So these are 2 things I talk about and things that I am committed to. And so in terms of transparency, I just shared more with you than I had been sharing, but we were trying to communicate clearly about the search process. But when I ended up in this situation, I needed to act to make sure that we had the stable and effective leadership here at UCCS that could move the campus forward. And so we're not stuck in like this limbo for an extended period of time. And I think I spoke to my thought process there and why I did what I did. In terms of shared governance, you know, this is also something I'm incredibly committed to, and that's why I take the feedback that I get so seriously from the surveys. I understand you didn't get to fill one out for Jennifer. I completely get that. I acknowledge that. But I took the feedback I got from the 2 finalists very seriously, and I appointed people to the search committee. I went beyond what's required in Regent policy in terms of appointing folks to the search committee from shared governance groups. But at the end of the day, I felt like I needed to make a decision so that the campus could be in a position to effectively move forward into the future. And I did that knowing that I was going to take hits from all of you, just like I am right now. And I don't know if that effectively demonstrates how strongly I felt it was important to move forward with this, because this isn't pleasant, right? And I'm not, you know, I'm happy to hear from you. I'm not enjoying it, and so and I knew that was going to happen, but I just felt it was really important to move forward.
Thanks.
All right, this is this is the last area policy. And again, this was something that was submitted. The Gazette article on Sunday, December 10th, quoted you as saying, "We went through the process that I'm required to go through according to Regent law and policy. And I did what I said I was going to do, which was to listen. And this is a product of that. Could you explain how your actions did not violate that policy? And if you did follow the policy, can you explain why you took the actions that may have differed from what was explicitly noted about the search process?"
It's a little long, so let me know. if you
That's
need
okay.
it.
I think I answered this last part of that already, so
Maybe you can just add to it. That would be great.
But in terms of, I'm familiar with the Regent policy, and I followed it very, very closely. And I think I mentioned that when the time came and it was clear I wasn't moving forward with either the finalists, I consulted with folks in our office, I consulted with our lawyer, and I asked, what are my options? How do I move forward from here? And I listened very carefully, and the path I chose might not be the path, obviously, it's not the path that many of you would have hoped that I had taken, but it is the path I took, which was permitted by region policy, and I felt that was critical, so that we could get to the place where we had stable, consistent, and highly effective leadership.
There we go. I think I just need to be closer. Is this coming through?
Yeah.
So with that, thank you everyone for your patience as we went through these pre-submitted questions. Thank you so much to everyone that submitted all of the questions, comments, and feedback. And now we do have an hour remaining, and we're going to finish out this hour with questions from the audience, and we'll be going back and forth from the room here as well as the chat. And Joel, thank you for monitoring that chat, and let us know when some questions are coming through. We'll take at least a couple from the audience first. So the first hand I saw was over here.
Hi, my name is Lily. My question is, at any point, did you notify or let the search committee know about your decision before you let the campus know, or at what point did the search committee find out?
So I did let the search committee know before I let the campus know, a little bit before, not a lot before.
How much?
90
minutes. 90 minutes.
Hour.
90 minutes. Hold the mic close to you.
Oh, yeah.
So luckily, I'm teaching ethical leadership next semester. So this is gonna be fun. My question is, this is not about legality. It's about legit. It's about legitimacy. We have here 100 people plus, I don't know how much are there, 226 online. 300 plus, we don't, how many people couldn't come? I personally think those two candidates were not that good, but that's my opinion. But how we move forward now with a chancellor that doesn't have legitimacy? Because institutions are a relationship between people, and clearly relationships are damaged. So from the start, we don't have a legitimacy, but somehow we are going to get this campus to a better place. So that's my how. That's my.
And so that's a really good point, and that's a challenge that I was facing, right? That was my choice. If I could act quickly and make sure that we are on a solid path forward, or I could have gone through a longer process that I thought would have put the campus at risk, and in terms of leadership. But obviously, one of the consequences of me doing that is that it created this perception that you just talked about, right? And so I just would ask all of you, so you're mad at me about the process, and I'll take that. Jennifer's awesome, and I think that she's going to do an excellent job leading the campus. And I hope that you all will work collaboratively with her to move the campus forward. We have, you all know better than anyone, we have significant challenges that we're dealing with right now. We also have significant opportunities. And we're only going to be able to address those challenges and move the campus forward effectively if you all work effectively with your chancellor. And I understand completely what you're saying, because by having her not go through the regular process, she doesn't have that successful outcome to underneath her, to support her, right? So I appreciate that, and that's why I am going to have the survey go out, which I understand is not the same thing. I completely get that, but I was faced with this situation where if I had taken the time to do what you're describing, you would have likely ended up without a chancellor, a permanent chancellor, for an extended period of time, and that just wasn't an acceptable outcome to me. So it's not perfect, and the process wasn't perfect. I completely agree. But I felt like we needed to get to this point, and this outcome, an outcome that could move the campus forward.
So we'll go ahead and take some questions from the chat. I also wanted to say that there are people in the 303 overflow room. And so they've also identified themselves in the chat as being from room 303. Just to be fair, right? We want to make sure we hear from everyone. So
questions here.
and then,
questions
right.
And then we're gonna try to
Go back and forth.
So we'll be back.
Yes.
Okay, I've got a two-part question from the chat. One, can you explain your and your family's personal relationship with Dr. Sobanet and how this weighed in choosing her as both interim and finally permanent chancellor? That's the first part.
Yeah, so this one, so there's this rumor going around, and I don't know who started this rumor. I swear. Anyway, there's a rumor going around. I don't even want to dignify it honestly by saying it, but I am going to because you probably heard it. That I hired Jennifer because she's really good friends with my wife. So it's a little upsetting, honestly, for people to be for me to hear this. My wife, Michelle, has met Jennifer twice. And so while Jennifer is awesome, and my wife is awesome, they are not best friends. And so so this idea that I somehow hired her because my wife pressured me to hire her because they're best friends is just nuts. And for folks who are coming up with these stories, I just say, knock it off. That is unbecoming, it's inappropriate, and I don't appreciate it. And if you're making up those stories about me, you're probably making up those stories about each other too. And I tell you, stop it. It is not productive. It doesn't advance the campus, and it makes people hate each other. So stop it. In terms of my personal relationship with Jennifer, I've known her for years, and I've talked about that. Colorado is a small place. When you're in this sector, you work with people, the same people for year after year after year. And I bumped into her along the way with different hats. I've had different hats on and she's had different hats on. And so I do know her and I know her well. And I've worked, I've worked with her for a long time. And that's just like in your fields, when you're in a small state, you work with the same people year after year after year, and they get different jobs, and your relationships change because you have different responsibilities, but you know them and you become friends, and that's one of the great things about Colorado.
Second part, under the Equal Pay Act, doesn't every candidate have to be vetted under the same circumstances?
So under the Equal Pay Act, the job has to be posted, and Jennifer applied for the job. So I think that we're in good shape there. Yeah, we actually looked into that. Did she need to reapply? And she didn't because she applied for the job.
So are we gonna take one from the other room?
No, we'll take one from the room. Those in the overflow are entering into the chat.
All right, I'm going to this side because I saw it. Hand up over here. You had
She
your
was
hand up.
pointing
You
up.
still have your hand up?
I did, I can ask, so it's a follow-up on the previous question.
Okay, you had one of the
Yes, I'm happy
two
to ask.
first hands up, so.
Hi, so thank you for that response. Jennifer Sobanet, in a public article in the Gazette, described you as the best of friends. So I think the person starting the rumor is Jennifer Sobanet, who said she's been best friends with you for years. So can you please explain how, as the CU system president, right, who I presume believes in conflict of interest policies and avoiding even the appearance of nepotism, right, whether it's nepotism or not, the appearance of nepotism needs to be avoided because it undermines trust in public institutions. Can you explain how this does not avoid the appearance of nepotism?
So we are good friends. We are.
She's
And
the best of friends for years.
yeah, so we've known each other for a long time. we were CFOs together for the CU system, and so we have worked closely together. And I know her work well. She knows my work well, and but I'm not going to discriminate against a candidate because I know them. I have gotten throughout the process. I got feedback on the 2 finalists. I also got feedback about Jennifer. Unsolicited feedback. People expressing just very, surprised that she wasn't in the mix, and people saying that they wanted her to be the chancellor. And it wasn't just a little bit of feedback. I got this from a lot of folks, so when I told you I listened to feedback about the candidates, I also listened to the feedback that I was getting about her. It wasn't an organized kind of survey, but obviously that I didn't ask you. I did not ask you to fill that out regarding her, but that feedback supported what I've been seeing, and that is highly effective leadership at UCCS and a highly an outstanding ability to engage with the broader community, which is critical especially to UCCS, because UCCS, and I say it all the time, is connected to the community of Colorado Springs in a way that our other campuses are not connected to their communities. It's a very special thing. So I think that her ability to work effectively with the community is incredibly important, which is a total side journey from your question.
Yeah.
But
My question.
that's actually one of the reasons I picked her, is because of this feedback I have been getting, not just during the search process, but over the last 6 months.
I'm gonna, I see a student with a hand up and I want to give the students an opportunity.
Hello, President Saliman. For those who don't know me, I'm Dave Clark, Student Body Vice President. I just want to start off my question by saying feedback has not all been negative. I can tell you from the students, it's overwhelmingly positive. And they're very excited with this choice, so don't be too hard on yourself. And as you know, we did send you a letter before the search committee when the finalists were announced, expressing excellent, as well as the students' concern that Jennifer was not picked as a finalist, as well as the positive feedback that you mentioned. So I'm wondering if you could touch on that a little bit more and how some of that positive feedback that you received before the 2 finalists influenced this final decision.
You bet. So I thank you for the question, so it had a direct impact. So the feedback that I received from the campus community, from students, faculty, and staff, and from the broader community had a direct impact on all the decisions I've made along the way. And so the positive feedback I received regarding her absolutely had an impact on my decision. It wasn't the sole determining factor, but it definitely had an impact, and it had an impact on my decision about the other 2 candidates as well, who while they're outstanding individuals, just weren't the right choice for the community or for the campus at this point in time. So I hear you whispering over here. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. What's your name? I'm sorry.
I'm Jen.
Okay, I heard. So Jen's whispering that I didn't answer her question. So, so
the appearance of nepotism, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's
where
right.
friends are on them.
Right. So so the question was and I'm not sure, the appearance of nepotism.
Right. It appears
So
that way.
So and that's why I'm talking to you all today, to try to tell you my thought process when selecting the candidates. All I can tell you is that that's not right. You can believe it or not, but I can explain what process I went through, how my brain worked through this, and how I made my selection. You could choose not to believe me, and that's up to you. That'd be the problem. But you could choose not to believe me, or you could just believe that I'm speaking the truth. And I did not. I absolutely did not hire her because she was my friend. I hired her because she's going to do a good job for UCCS, and I feel like she's already been doing excellent work for the campus. Answer.
I'm asking about the appearance.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I can't do anything
Yeah.
about that unless, except explain the thought process that I went through, and I've done that. So.
Hi, so you talk about this unsolicited positive feedback, but I think it's really important to consider that because it was unsolicited, it was from a very specific group of people. When Dr. Sobanet was not moved up as a finalist, obviously the people who wanted her to be a finalist raised their concerns, but anyone who didn't want her to be a finalist had no reason to reach out to you. So I don't think that feedback really had any value in consideration, considering it was only one side.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to that?
So it wasn't only one side. And so I hear what you're saying. Like people thought that she wasn't a candidate, so if they had concerns about her, they weren't going to bring them forward. Some people still did, and so it wasn't. UCCS is not a monolith, right? Lots of opinions, folks. And so I did get feedback from both perspectives. It was overwhelmingly positive. And that's why when I answered Aiden's question, I said it was a big factor, but it wasn't a determining factor. And so for me, the determining factor was her performance and how effectively she's been moving the campus forward. Another determining factor for me was just our situation. You know, we have some significant issues that need stable leadership to address. And I was really worried that if I delayed, we would be in a position where we didn't have that stable leadership, and it would put the campus at significant risk. And so those two things combined, along with the feedback I got, which helped inform my decision, is how I came to that decision. But I hear you, and that's a good point. And obviously, giving you or giving others the opportunity to fill out the survey now is not the same thing. I get that, but I will read it. I really will, and I'll
What
share.
impact will it have though? After the fact? If you're
Well,
reading our feedback.
Yeah, so it has the same impact as other feedback.
You can't say that. You've already made the decision.
Oh yeah, I'm not changing my mind on this one. So Jennifer's the person, and I'm sticking with her.
Yeah.
But your feedback will absolutely inform how I work with her and how she works with the campus. And to cavalierly dismiss that, I find offensive from all of you. I mean, give me a break. What you tell me? Seriously? What you tell me, you know, I'm showing you the respect you deserve, and I expect you to show me the respect I deserve as well. What you tell me matters to me. I listen to what you tell me. And I have been on this campus, and I've been on every campus, and I listen and I respond and I take action as a result of what I hear. So to imply that when you fill out this survey, I'm not going to pay attention, I find offensive. I have proven that I listen and that I pay attention. And yes, I acted. That's my job, is to act, is to provide leadership. And I provided leadership when I thought that the future of the campus was at risk. And does that mean that I understand that meant that I didn't get to hear from all of you about it ahead of time. That was a consequence I knew was going to come my way. And like I said before, I don't enjoy that consequence, but I thought the decision was important enough to endure this. And so don't for a second think or say that this in any way indicates that I don't appreciate and listen to what you say. I do.
We're gonna take a question from the chat. We're doing a few questions in person and then go into the chat, which is the overflow room, as well as the other 300 people online. So take one. You see a hand that was up there in the back, so.
The chat is blowing up here, so I'm gonna do my best. There were several people on the chat. First off, I want to say that felt that Aiden didn't get his question fully answered, that it was cut off. So Aiden, if you would like to ask that again, we would love to hear that answer. The other question I have is, other than the positive feedback you received, what concrete metrics were used to assess Dr. Sobanet's performance during her time at UCCS?
Right, so when Jennifer started and I asked her, and I talked to her about the things that I wanted her to work on. So I wanted her to work on enrollment, on budget, on addressing the morale on the campus, and to working with shared governance. So there are concrete things she's done in each of those areas. And I know we're not really, I know there are other questions about process that people want to ask, so I won't take too much time answering these, but in terms of budget, I'm incredibly grateful to her and her team for digging in and identifying the significant challenge we face. I think folks suspected there was a problem, but none of us knew exactly what that problem was until she and her team told us. And that's a problem that's been developing over years. And so I'm incredibly grateful to her and her team for not just identifying a problem, but for starting to create a process around that to address it. And that's going to be hard. That's going to be tough work. And it'll probably impact the people in this room. But she's fully empowered as a leader to make the changes that she needs to make collaboratively with the campus community to address that. In terms of enrollment, now she's been working with our K-12 partners in this region to improve the pipeline from K-12 schools into UCCS. She's also going to be working with community colleges in that regard also, because as we know, a huge portion of UCCS's students are transfer students. She's enthused. She's excited to hit the ground doing outreach, reestablishing our relationships with communities around Southern Colorado to try to pull more students into UCCS. In terms of shared governance, I know that she's been working closely with shared governance, and I would actually defer to folks in shared governance to talk about how she's been doing that. But I know that she has reinvigorated that relationship, and that she has been meeting regularly with shared governance leaders, and has actually even modified the relationship between, or modified how UBEC is going to be used to help ensure that that's a collaborative working process that is truly integrated into budget decisions on the campus. And I think I missed one.
The other was just making sure Aiden's question was fully answered. Aiden, could you restate your question, or were you satisfied with the answer? Thank you.
So we'll take more questions from the room. I see.
It's because you're in front.
Hi, I'm Rex Wilson, professor of philosophy. I've been here for 30 years. I tried to be a good citizen of the university. I served for 16 years as Associate Dean of the College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences. I served during COVID as interim dean of the college. I've worked on both the campus faculty constitution and helped to co-author the system-wide faculty constitution. I've seen two great and disturbing usurpations of power during my time here. First was the Regent's action regarding Lord Churchill, where they just waited for the PNT process to grind through its years And then at the end of it, thank them very much and fire them, ignoring their recommendation. The second great usurpation of power is this episode. It is really disturbing and eye-opening to watch a president take all of the information, all of the advice provided by the search committee, and all of the recommendations and advice provided by the faculty, and reject both the candidates, and then unilaterally act to go in a different direction with a candidate who didn't even make the finalist list in the first place. In my considered judgment, you've acted like a king and not a president of a university. And I find that most disturbing. You're concerned about morale here, and it's low. I can report that. There's also widespread cynicism. Low morale is caused by multiple factors. Among them is administrative overreach. Cynicism is earned, and it's earned by administrators who routinely and at the drop of a hat overreach their authority. I grant that Regent policy permits you to act the way you have done. But as you pointed out, you have other alternatives that you could have done. And there are still others that you didn't do that you could have done. You could have contacted Dr. Sobanet and asked her not to accept another job until you had the opportunity to bring the situation back to the search committee. But you didn't do that either. And so after 30 years, my morale is as good as it's always been. But my cynicism is at an all-time high. And I'm sorry to say that. Thank you.
I'll allow time if you want to respond, otherwise we can go to the next question.
I don't think he asked a question. Right.
Hi, I'm Amy Seth. I work in financial aid here. I've also been here since 1994, so quite a while. And when you had picked Jennifer originally, I came down, I told you, I thought that was kind of maybe a setup, but that I liked her. I really did like her. You know, I felt like we weren't heard the first round when she was named interim, but so I'm not faculty. I know I'm not. I am a true believer in higher ed. I have almost 2 masters and an undergrad from here. And I believe in higher ed. And what are we doing here? We're giving out degrees, right? And the faculty here are of the highest caliber. And I feel like the person that's going to be in charge of a university that has a 4-year research institution should be of that degree or higher. Like, how do we move forward and say that this institution getting these degrees is important? We don't even hire that. You know what I mean? It deflates. I'm not a great speaker. I don't have all the right words, but I just feel like the mission here is being watered down, like what we're doing here. It doesn't feel good. I don't like the way that just got handled. I feel like we deserved better. I feel like there could have been, I'm with Rex, there were so many other options. And to get that email on a Friday was just like, I don't even have the words. I can't say the words because they're not the right, I can't say them here. You're the president, and I believe in you. I have no disrespect, and I do like Jennifer. I just feel like, one, now there's a target on her back. Yep. I don't think you did her any favors. Yeah. Except we could have felt like we were heard. It didn't feel like that, and I know that this is a hard decision for you. I'm not downplaying it, but just from my perspective, that's where I'm at, and it hurt because I do love this institution, and I'm hurt for all of the people that are here, and it feels like we should have gotten we should have stopped, like he said, and talked to us and the search committee. I mean, you feel like maybe you're the president and that you're being disrespected in some of the rumors that are going on, but how does the search committee feel? How does everybody else feel? We all feel that same way. So I appreciate you. I do. I'm sorry, but that's what I can see.
Thank you. In terms of
Eventually.
so just quickly in response to that, so thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. I think that and I mentioned it a little bit earlier that the interview process with all of you, when you interview the candidates, if that helps legitimize a successful candidate. It does, right? Because they have heard from all of you and they've participated in that. So I get that. I completely do. And I think that the way I had this process play out didn't include that. And so that definitely results in Jennifer having a little deficit, right? Because she wasn't she didn't prove herself through that. Now I know that you all know her and have been working with her and ask her questions and all that all the time, not relative to being chancellor. I completely acknowledge that. But and she and I have talked about that. And so I mentioned that in my communication to the campus that one of the things that she's going to be doing is to continue the listening out to her. Well, it's going to be more than that. And she initiated this conversation with me. And what she said is that she wants to have a series of meetings as part of that listening to her, where it's not just her listening, but also her talking, her sharing with her, answering your questions, the same questions that you would have asked during the process. Now it's different because she's chancellor now, and I'm highly supportive of her being chancellor. But I suspect you all will feel free to ask her questions. And while it's not the same, it will absolutely create an opportunity for that conversation to occur. But I acknowledge completely what you're saying, and that the process absolutely was not perfect. But I thought that it was so critical that we produced a result that could provide stability and excellent leadership to the campus, that I was willing to go through, to take the turn that I did to get to that point. And I know that some of you continue, you think that was wrong, and I accept that. But it was on me, and I had to make that decision, and I did. And I think that the proof will be in the pudding in terms of her performance. In terms of the cynicism that you were talking about, I completely get why this aggravates that, and I apologize for that. I know that is a significant issue. That's a significant issue in all of higher education. It's a significant issue here at UCCS, and morale, honestly, it's an issue in all of higher education too. But we're not talking about all of higher education today. We're talking about UCCS, and to the extent to which the process that I chose to implement aggravates that, I'm sorry for that. That is not a good outcome, obviously, and it will just make that hole a little bit deeper that we have to dig ourselves out of in that regard, and that is truly unfortunate. That being said, I thought that the risks were so great that we wouldn't have that person in charge that could lead us forward, and that we would be in limbo for a year and a half. That but that just was completely unacceptable. So I made a decision.
We have about 20 minutes remaining in our time here. For those of you who've had your hands up since the beginning, apologies. We were really trying to get to everyone. We're going to take one more from the room. We'll be taking some from the chat.
Wow, this is an intense meeting. I'm Chip Knight. I've been here for 30 years as well. So I'm old. And, you know, for the last several years, I was telling somebody the other day that I'm really sad around the campus. I've given my career here, my heart and soul to this place. And I think we have a moment now, like all crises, we have a moment as a faculty, as a staff, to look at this moment and see what we all can do to move forward. And I'm not saying what people are feeling is wrong by any means. I think I always respect what Rex says whenever he stands up. I listen carefully. And I agree with what Rex said, but I also think we need to take a bigger view here for a second. One of the things is, having been here 30 years, the fact that we have a chancellor who has a good relationship with the president of the university. I'm not kidding about that. We've had situations where the president, in my perspective, didn't even know UCCS existed. And that's an important thing. And I also think we came up with the provost. This is going to be a question eventually. I promise. But we also came up with a strong provost governance on this campus, I don't know how many years ago. But that was a big move for us to go from, I think we were before, a really dominated chancellor-led institution. Now we have a strong provost and a little bit strong mayor of concept. And I think we actually have the opportunity right now with a strong provost who does get the academic mission, does understand faculty experience, and that's her job. And I want to see that position be a strong position. We also have now a chancellor who has a background that's perfect in my mind for what we're facing, both community-wide, legislature-wise, as well as working with a strong provost to manage this campus to get us forward. We have some serious problems. The serious problem I see is, as long as we have bad morale on this campus, we're going to lose students. Students feel it, and they'll respond to it, and they're going to back out. So who's that on? Is that on the chancellor? Is that on the provost? No, that's on us. And we have to take that seriously and begin to change that. And the only way to change that is we got to start looking at ourselves and as our team and begin to think about that and start loving what we do again, because that's necessary. Now, my question is this. We are faced with becoming a community college that looks like a four-year institution.
Yeah.
And as long as we're focused on a business model where we're just trying to get butts in seats, we're in trouble. Because we're not that. We're an institution that has a strong research mission. I'm part of that research mission. And my question to you is, one, what is the strategy that you can help with our leadership team, including the provost and the chancellor, to make sure that we become the kind of institution that we are on the trajectory to be, which includes getting the legislature somehow, and if you can pull this off, I buy you a car, a little car. But I mean, we are not, yeah, exactly. We are not funded by the state at the level we need to be funded by. And I know it's happening in back doors and this and that, but I haven't seen anything change in that in 30 years other than go the wrong direction. So there's that. And then how do we think about this in a way that's not going to be reductionistic into, we just have to increase enrollments? Because I think that's going to be that's obviously what we need to do, but that's not it. So if you could answer that, thank you.
Thank you. So, so this is, so much of it comes down to that, right? When we talk about morale, that's one of the outcomes from inadequate funding, because we don't have the resources we need to do what we need compensate people like we should be, and to have the staffing and supports that we should for students, faculty, and staff. And so this is a real issue. So first of all, to the legislators watching, if there are any, so thank you for 3 years of really excellent increases. And so we've had 3 years of significant increases from the state of Colorado. It's budget season again, and we are lobbying. I was working on it yesterday, and from here on headed to a meeting to talk to a legislator about this topic. And so, but when, unfortunately, the state of Colorado isn't in a position to dramatically increase funding for higher education. Even though their steady increases over the last 3 years have been significant, and they have had an impact. But it puts all of higher education in Colorado in a bind. We're also working on some legislative initiatives this year that we haven't shared with folks yet, that would provide a significant jolt to help improve affordability for students, transfer students, and students who are getting degrees in fields that have been identified as high need fields in Colorado. And so, we'll see how it all works out, and we'll see how those bills go. But we are taking concrete steps to do that. And I think and that's something I work on collaboratively with the chancellors and with my colleagues around the state. And I know that's not what we're here to talk about, but I spend a lot of time working on that, and I'm happy to come and talk about that more at a different time. So thank you.
Got another quick question from the chat. This one's come up a couple of times, so I want to make sure it gets answered. Will there be a process for campus shared governments to perform an administrator appraisal review of the chancellor after her initial couple of years in the job? Sounds like the Boulder Faculty Assembly last year did the same with the provost, which is valuable. So curious if that's an option here.
Yeah, so thank you for that. That's a really good question. Jennifer and I have been talking about that, especially because of the way I selected her, and to make sure that folks have an opportunity to weigh in when that time comes. And so we've been talking about it. Haven't decided exactly how to structure that. I want to get more feedback on that, think about it more. But that's definitely something that we're thinking about. We have a 360 review process that we use for administrators. It's not particularly frequent, and so that doesn't quite get us to where we want to go on this. And so we need to think about how to create something to enable that kind of feedback opportunity.
Yeah, I've got another question for the chat as well. I'm going to pass on when we find it real quick.
Have we got any questions?
I haven't gotten any from the overflow or open chat. Here's another question. With the CU Boulder search happening, how can we or the other campuses feel confident that this type of decision making won't become a pattern?
So I've never been a fan of the idea of a slippery slope. One decision doesn't mean that other decisions are going to happen in a similar way. And I always hated that argument when I was in the legislature. It's like, no, it's not a slippery slope. You need to count your votes. And here and with the selection processes for the other campuses as well, I will follow the policy, and I absolutely have faith that following the policy will produce a chancellor, and I think that will happen at CU Boulder. I thought it was going to happen here. I was highly confident that it was going to happen here, going through the regular process. It just didn't turn out that way. I think I'm highly confident that it will at CU Boulder, and I'm very much committed to that. It's as we've been discussing, I think it's good for the candidates, it's good for the community, and it's good for me. And I know that that's absolutely the expectation.
We have about 10 minutes left. I want to be sure that we have an opportunity to get to as many people as possible. We'll take one more from the room before going back to the chat. We do have a few hundred on the chat, so one.
So, Terry Bolton, so I'm a little bit like Chip. I think we need to think about the future. So I struggle a little bit with the discussions of transparency, and it's great to discuss the process, but action speaks more than words, right? And we've now put Jennifer at a significant disadvantage. So what can we do what can you do? What can the campus, right? We've got to find a way to move forward, and that's not like, let's wait until a year or two from now when we get reviews. Those are all nice things. We've got to move quickly. The whole point of this was to move quickly. So what will be done to quickly help her build better credibility among the families and to actually move forward in a positive way?
So to me, the key to that is continued and rapid engagement with the campus community and a collaborative approach to address the challenges we're facing. And it's something that, this is one of the reasons I hired her, is because that's something that she's highly committed to and has a long track record of success in creating that kind of collaborative environment and to make progress on difficult issues together. And my ask of you and all of you and everybody on Zoom and everybody in the community is to engage and support and help be part of those solutions. You're mad at me, and I appreciate that. Don't take that on her. Please work collaboratively with her to move to help us make progress in these areas. It doesn't mean that you're going to agree with her on everything. She's going to have to make hard decisions too, and that goes with the territory. But that's what you all can do. What I can do is to support her in that work. And I've always said that the most important thing for the president to know is what their job isn't. And my job is to not be the chancellor of UCCS. I'm going to give her, I have empowered her to do her job, to work with all of you, to work with the community, and to advance the campus. That's my expectation of her. I will review her based on that. You will review her based on that. And the regent will review me based on that. And so that's what I can do, is help support her, help engage when helpful. But honestly, the most important thing to move the campus forward is how you all work together with her.
And another question from the chat. This is in response to the plan to create a vice chancellor of faculty affairs. If we're in a budget issue, why are we adding another DC?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to finish this real quick. We cannot keep staff because of poor pay. We are growing faculty and not staff. I have been here 17 years. We are pretty much staffed the same despite growing faculty and student population. What is being done to support staff?
Yeah. So that's an excellent question, and actually I talked to Jennifer about that. I know she's talked to Nancy about that and to Kathy. And how do we make sure, because this position, from what I understand, is needed. It came out of a discussion between Jennifer and Nancy and Kathy, and to ensure that faculty are being effectively served. That being said, the campus is clearly in a budget crunch, and so they've already started conversations about how you can fill that position and create that position without having a negative impact on any other part of the campus environment. That's all I know, honestly, right now about that. I think that's a good follow-up question for Jennifer, for her team, as they explore creating that. What was the second part of that?
Just a feeling that staffing levels have not grown as a whole.
Yeah. So, well, and unfortunately, our enrollment hasn't grown. Our enrollment has declined for, I think, 5 consecutive years. That's actually one of our problems. But the ironic thing is that while enrollment has gone down, workloads have gone up. And the supports that the students need and the expectations that we provide them, the needs that we meet, those have all grown. And and this, and same thing for faculty and staff, honestly, too. And so that's one of our biggest challenges in higher ed is communicating this. How do we communicate this incredible need that we have? And so that is one of our biggest challenges. How do we adjust workflows? How do we structure our environment so that we don't burn people out, destroy their motivation, and ensure, like Chip was saying, that people love what they're doing? And I think that's actually, I agree. I think that's our biggest challenges. We're going to figure out budget. We're going to figure out enrollment. You know, there are concrete ways to do that. You know, improving morale, that's hard. That's harder. That's hard. And these other things need to happen in order for morale to improve. But there's more to it than that. And I probably asked Stephanie to answer that question. But and I know there are concrete things that are being put in place to try to address that as well. But I acknowledge that that's a challenge. I only wish it was only a challenge here. Unfortunately, that's a challenge system-wide.
We are coming up on our time, so we're going to take one more question from the room. To everyone else who had questions, comments, feedback, apologies that we could not get to everyone, but we will have a form for submitting additional feedback that we'll be sharing out at the end of this. So one final question, I'm seeing a hand in the back there, so I'm going to go to the first one.
Yep.
Colin Lewis, Department of Philosophy. Speaking to Jennifer's merits position, how do you square this with the situation of CU Denver, $4 million in the hole? That's the entire question. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think everyone heard that. So but regarding the budget challenge that CU Denver had, that was a similar situation where Jennifer and her team uncovered that. That wasn't a budget challenge that the finance team created. That was due to a variety of things that have been happening on the campus that weren't related to the budget and finance side at all. And so it was a similar situation where she and her team identified the depth of the problem. And then, of course, she was not the chancellor there, right? And so she worked with the chancellor, Michelle Marks. But I think Jennifer really provided leadership in creating a process around the campus, which was challenging, but I think was a very well respected process to address that budget gap. And
now flat.
I don't know. So some of these, all of our campuses are. Let's just be clear that so we always balance our budgets, and but I think that they had I don't know if they finished their multi-year plan to address that budget gap. Addressing the budget gap here, that's not going to happen in 1 year. It's going to be a multi-year plan also, and I'm not certain where they are in terms of that process. I think they're nearing the end. They might have 2 years left. I'm not positive.
So that, President Saliman, thank you so much for your time and for being here in person. Thank you so much to everyone who is here. Thank you for sharing the feedback. And again, we are going to have a form to submit additional feedback and questions that has been dropped in the chat for those online. I think we're going to be able to get a QR code up here. We'll also be emailing everyone, so you'll have an opportunity to share additional feedback. Thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Monica, you the final.
So again, I just wanted to reiterate the things that Matt actually just said. Thanks everyone for being here during this busy time. And also to President Saliman, Ken as a regent, and folks from system, thank you for joining us. We will have a QR code that's going to be broadcast here. Those that joined us online, thank you. The recording will also be made available to folks as well. I know that some people couldn't get in on the Zoom, and that's something we apologize for. Zoom just has a capacity of 300. And we couldn't, there was no way to open it up for folks beyond that, so apologies here for that, but thank you to everyone online. Good luck with the end of the semester, everyone, and happy holidays. Please, I'll send that out. I'll send out the recording through the different faculty and staff listservs. We'll make sure to make that available. And again, thank you, everyone.